Hi, it's me again. I want to work on um, telling you about some of the assignments you've turned in, and then how to give the best advice when you critique, because a situation will come up again. There I am again, just to remind you who you're talking to. I'll update the picture soon. I keep saying that. I did get my hair cut, so I can. Okay, quiz. What did I do? Well, I graded the questions that could have had a different answer. You know those short answer ones? Sometimes the computer doesn't pick up your words. Like some of you said readers, and I'd put in the answer reader, audience. And so because you had an S on reader, it told you were wrong. So I went back in and regraded it so that if you had a different word that meant the same thing as the answer, I gave you credit. I also, I believe, released the answers and released a report of how everyone did. I say I think so because sometimes the commands in the program confuse me, and I'm not sure if I'm really releasing it. If you can't see the answers, let me know, and then I'll contact eLearning and ask them what to do. The discussion board. First of all, I graded each post individually, and then the computer averaged them. Some of you that did not write only responded to one person. I deducted points from the response score if you only had one. Remember, you need to respond to at least 3 students when you're on the discussion board for the whole class. In a couple weeks, I'll be putting you in small groups, and then you'll need to talk to everybody in that group. Critiquing. Most of you handled it pretty well. I was very impressed with the friendly advice that you gave to each other. In fact, I was impressed with the quiz scores, and I was impressed with the work that you did this week. And I am very, very pleased to see such strong writers in my class. So when I'm telling you these things, it's not because you guys are doing horribly. It's just that I want you to do even better. I set high standards for my students, and some students think, gosh, she's just so mean. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is to give you the best education possible when it comes to writing. Most of you in your careers will not be writing 5-paragraph essays. You'll be writing to an audience in some way. You'll be writing different kinds of reports. And that's why I wanted to give you these skills. And I also am going to expect that you do well. The fact that I've already said, hey, you have a misspelled word, I will not read it. That's one of my high standards. It's not to be mean. Is to teach you that every word counts when you're writing. So when you're critiquing people, and this is going to come up again in small groups and in large groups, use the advice Hanley gives you to write about the post as you critique your own. This week's reading pages 44 through 53 gives you advice on how to revise. And you can also use the advice on revision to critique. You can tell people they should use analogies, which is maybe telling a story or telling about something that's a story that is similar to what happened to them so you can show the comparison. You should have empathy for the reader. When you're reading a post, you need to look and see, does it make sense to somebody else? Of course it makes sense to you, but does it make sense to someone else? And you will use that not only when you're revising your own, but you're going to use it when you critique somebody else. Check each word. And I mean, you want the strongest word. You want the strongest things to say. And then I also want you to cut things that aren't important. Remember, in the first few pages of Handley, they said that you have to have a goal for writing. In academia, we call that a thesis statement or a main idea. But you have to have a goal. And this goal, you don't want anything in there that's going to take away from that goal. You're going to cut large pieces of your writing that just don't affect the goal and add in pieces, analogy, explanations for the reader that do. Also, when you write a critique and when you're revising your own paper, you know what you like. So use your own concerns and use positive and instructive feedback. Tell your reader when you're critiquing what made you laugh, remember, and sigh, and all of you did very well on that. But where you kind of fell down if you didn't get good grades on your critiques was, tell them what you already know about good reading. Be specific. Some of you said things like, well, you need to rewrite some of your sentences. That doesn't help the reader or the writer very much because you're not telling them what sentences are confusing them. And then point out errors, whether they be commas, the wrong verb, something like that. Oh, also, notice pointing out errors is the last thing that you would do when you write a critique, just as it's the last thing you look at when you're revising your papers. So when you're revising your papers, it's the same thing as when you write critiques. They're both editing or revising processes. One you're using on yourself, the other you're using on your reader. Okay, I've released the new assignments for next week, and there is a quiz on Hanley, pages 44 through 53. I'm having trouble saying numbers today, aren't I? And it's advice on critiquing. And that's, you'll be doing your own critiquing, as well as looking at my critique and your classmates' critique to revise. Read these pages carefully. There's a 10-point true-false quiz that's due by the end of the week. And when you're writing your revisions, watch the video that I put in. It's going to be right below this one. Write a revision using the advice you got. Put it away for a day. Revise again. And do not rush to get it over with. I noticed that in the Dropbox, some people have already placed their assignments. And there's no way you could have given yourself a break if you've already put them in there. That's about all I have to say to you right now. I hope you're watching these. If you are, why don't you send me an email saying I watched the video. Just put that in the subject line and then tell me what you learned from it and what is confusing to you. I will give a bonus 5 points to people who send it to me by next Thursday, which is, gee golly, next Thursday is, I'm going to have to look it up on a calendar here, the 15th, or excuse me, the 8th. So drop me a line by the 8th. Have a good week.